program as sleazy as American Case File needed to plant evidence.
I feel like if Mahoney consistently didn't bring in a limb, the reports would get noticed.
Yeah, perhaps. Hard to say.
I love hearing you go along with this, Adam. There's so many other things I can tell you I want to talk about.
I mean, yeah, let's wind it back.
All right, let's
maybe
get back to Mahoney.
Bit.
Let's go back to Mahoney. All right, so Mahoney, I feel like he graduated probably 4th in his class at Quantico.
At Quantico. You think he went to Quantico?
Yeah, and then he transferred. And he probably has a criminal justice degree, but he's more of a tactician.
I mean, you're assuming because I have no idea what his role in that shootout was.
And why did they wait for Jason to go to the house and just not catch him on the way to the house?
Well, you're right. They set up that big, floodlight area, and I think they just wanted to be able to, shoot all of their guns all at once, which you might remember better than I do. Maybe Mahoney was the guy who did this one, but when Jason gets, deer in headlights with the floodlights, I feel like somebody gets a shot in right in his forehead.
Yeah, when the woman who's running away does a baller summer
slip. That's right.
This guy
pops
up.
Shot. This guy
pops up and just caps him right between the eyes.
Do we not know that's not Mahoney?
I bet you that was Mahoney, and the guy saw that, and then that's Mahoney.
I think you're right. I think that's probably the most logical leap we can make if we're guessing who's who here.
I gotta tell you something, Adam. I worked on film sets for many years, and to have enough power to power those gigantic lights, you would need a generator running, and generators are loud, and you would have to have a truck to bring that out there, and a lot of cable. So not only FBI guys, but you would need electricians, and they also had sandbags for those lights.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was an operation that was very loud.
Oh, see, I thought you were going to go ahead and say, Jason, there's no way he would have not known it was a trap because he would have heard it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, Homeboy already has one eye only, and God knows what else has been done to his fucking face and head, so it's probably a safe assurance that he's probably not working with every utility at 100%.
So you think he got so focused on her genes that he didn't notice the lights being set up?
If we're going to take your brand of logic, yeah, I think that's a safe assumption. He was so caught up and angry with the way in which she undressed. And perhaps that's us cracking the motive all along, that Jason's he's not even upset that they're taking their clothes off. He's not even upset that they're horny. He's upset because they're doing it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, they're just when they go skinny dipping, they just throw their stuff on the sand. You're supposed to fold it.
Right? And hey, who's to say that the worst crime of all is putting your clothes on a bathroom floor? Because that's gross.
Yeah, that's bad. Especially that house.
Yeah, that was probably not given a whole lot of tender love and care before she got there.
So if you're listening, you're probably knowing that we're talking about Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter, and Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. So this is your idea. Wait, Adam, real quick. I stopped myself to ask you a question. So if I posited these theories on a Friday the 13th board online, what would people think?
Oh, goodness. Well, you're talking about a culture that's sort of on its way out or long expired. I remember the Friday the 13th movies, official Paramount, I think, owned the stake in it, at least for most of them, and they had a pretty active message board that was always in contention with the Ultimate Halloween message board, but that's neither here nor there. I suppose if you brought it to them, they'd probably laugh their asses off because, and no disrespect to my own kind, but a lot of the Friday fans were a very signature brand of fan. They were very, how do I say?
Slasher fans?
Not even. They were a different breed. So, I feel like Halloween is pretty diverse, especially now more than ever. But man, you talk to the hardcore Friday the 13th fans, Jason fans, a lot of them are pretty rural. Not a bad thing, but they tend to be, a little bit more Midwestern for whatever reason. So I think you take that sensibility with you when you're talking to a board full of rabid Friday fans. And I don't know if that's evolved any, but yeah, back in my day, that's sort of the experience that I encountered.
I gotta tell you something. I guess we can go back to Friday the 13th Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. We can kind of get back on that. I like it more than I like 2 and 3.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would probably agree with you. And it's hard because each of them has a mess of pros and cons. But yeah, I think that's a fair call.
In Friday the 13th Part 2, Jason just sits in the woods and stares at people. A lot.
Yeah, and he's kind of rapey in that one too, isn't he?
It's gross.
Because there is one of the final girls, if not the final girl, I believe she alludes to a time where she was chased in the woods by Jason. And I don't know if that's 2 or 3. It's either one of them. And yeah, there's like some sort of hint at a sexual assault. And you obviously didn't kill her because she's recounting it in a flashback. But yeah, it was sort of the first glimpse that Jason had those types of anxieties, I suppose.
And 4, he just kills.
Yes, and that's actually what I wanted to point out with 4. When we say Part 4, of course, we're talking about the final chapter, which, of course, is a misnomer, as was the final Friday. I guess we'll get that out of the way. Both were completely fake, fraudulent titles. But yeah, Part 4, a lot of these sort of oscillate between suspense and gratuitous sex. I do feel like the pacing in the franchise is terrible, as fun as these movies are. And when I watch Part 4, as you pointed out, it does feel a little porny compared to the others because you're not getting as much filler or quote unquote story, which you can laugh all you like about that, but it is very squarely like if the scene is not horror, it's kind of horny teens. If the scene is not horny teens, it is horror. It's not a bad thing, but it's very obvious in this movie.
What, Part 4?
Yeah. So I just think that there's a more committed effort to flesh out a quote unquote story, which, let's be real, they all lack. But in this movie, I think they were going for the fences and trying to give people what they wanted. So it is very again, find me a scene, right? Find me a scene that's not including Joe the rando woodsman or Corey Feldman and his family. Every other scene is either horny teens and porny or straight up quote unquote horror, exploitation, violence.
At one scene, Crispin Glover says, "God, I'm horny." Then another guy says, "Sex is a great way to meet new people." And I want to tell you, so I normally don't like horror movies that introduce unlikable people then kill them. I don't really like the whole let's murder everybody. I like when they're a little bit redeemable, but that coroner in the beginning of Part 4, the final chapter, when he's eating the sandwich and he's talking about how a deceased woman,
necrophiliac. He's a necrophiliac.
Is disgusting. And I guess that was the point. But at the beginning of the movie, he's one of the worst characters of film I've ever seen. Talks about how a dead woman is attractive. He puts a sandwich on a body. He smacks very loudly. And then he watches jazzercise videos while in the morgue.
Yeah, that jazzercise video is rather porny too. There's a lot of rouge and makeup, but I like that this is where our conversation has led us. We talked about the greatest villains and despicable characters in cinema history. We've got Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and we've got Adolf Hitler or whatever, and then we've got the coroner from Part 4 of Friday the 13th because he put a sandwich. Yeah, he is. He's a necrophiliac. He's hinting at fucking a dead body, which is disgusting. But that's my point. Earlier, I was mentioning everybody in these movies. There's so little and lacking of likability and humanity. And I think it's by design because you kind of don't care. It's a sport. You're seeing these people get killed and offed and you feel good about it. You revel in it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all these people need to be completely deplorable.
The one thing that I think makes this movie work is Crispin Glover's portrayal as Jimmy, because it is weird.
You're just saying that he's being Crispin Glover, which is true.
And it's perfect. And I liked his buddy that he was with. I didn't like that whole conversation about calling him whatever, this will get us our PG-13, to call him a dead fuck on his computer. But that gag comes back later. He's like, I don't know, why don't you look at your computer? But I
like the computer bit. Yeah. I'll defend that.
And I guess that was improvised. That's pretty funny. And they went with that. But between these two guys, I felt like they had a sense of humor about them. They were... When Crispin Glover, I didn't know that I thought he was going to be like the final guy, Crispin Glover, for some reason, because they spent a lot of time with him. And when he got corkscrewed, I was shocked. I did a corkscrew. I did not see that coming, and I loved it. I
mean, where to start? So yeah, see, I wonder about in the timeline of Crispin Glover being Crispin Glover, you know, in his rise to fame and cult favor, that where he was in this, because this was before his Marty McFly thing, I think, maybe, I forget, or not Marty McFly, excuse me.
Yeah, before.
The father, before. But yeah, the dance he does obviously is iconic. And I agree with you, his interactions with Teddy Bear, despite them being completely sleazy. And it's something that we don't get up from a whole lot of other Friday movies. But I do like the way he was killed, because he hands it up in such a way, right? He's just gotten lucky with one of the Babe twins. He's trying to celebrate with presumably wine or champagne. He's, Tad, where's the corkscrew? He just goes, Tad. And it's just such a Crispin Glover affectation. And of course, what happens? He's screwed again, right, with the corkscrew. And then there's a reverse shot. I know they had to film it with the cleaver to the face, which I think this movie, and I'll say it now, I was going to mention earlier, this movie actually got a lot of stuff cut because of the MPAA, which was no fan or friend of the franchises at the time.
Or slashers. So, they were really nailing slashers, yeah.
You're right. At the time, they were pretty hard on it. But this movie a few of the Friday movies got hit hard. This one in particular, I don't know how you watched it, but I have the unrated on Blu-ray. It is a difference. I mean, you're talking about a number of different kills that got way gorier. Even the coroner in the beginning, not the coroner, excuse me, the male nurse. With the sort of saw to the head, and the shower scene later, as we'll talk about. But that scene with Crispin, I believe that they hang on for another second with more blood effects. So yeah, I knew he was going to die, and I love his performance in it, because it's just so unabashedly goofy, and it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Corkscrew!
Yeah.
Now, Jason, right? He is very movable. And so a lot of people think of Jason as this hulking, walking, lumbering figure. But in this movie, he runs, and he climbs up on the second floor window of a home to pull one of the twins out and throw her on a car. And then he swims underwater. He shoots a guy with a spear gun right in the balls.
Yeah, there's some pretty gnarly kills. It's weird that you pointed out the twin being thrown out the window. There are literally, I counted, and I thought it was just me at first. There are 3 different window breaking scenes. The twin is the first. Then, inexplicably, Gordon the dog sees Jason, presumably, and decides to just bolt. So the dog's out of there. And then the third, the final girl, right, who I am no fan of. She was annoying as hell. But you're talking about 3 different characters in this movie who are either thrown through or jump through glass windows. And it's just like, all right, the effect is starting to lose out. It's a law of diminishing returns. So I just thought that was really weird for a movie that was really swinging for the fences.
So for me, I liked Trish Jarvis because she put up a fight. She was trying to get her brother shaving his head while she's dealing with a life and death situation. But I don't know, as a character, no, but I like the grit that she put up with at the end.
I think it's obvious she had grit because she's sneering in every other scene. She's like, and
I loved when she stabbed him through the hand.
Yeah, that's a great effect.
That was a good bit. And then she also hits him in the head with a hammer. I don't know. I appreciate
several times.
Yeah, she put up a fight, and I kind of dug that about her. Right. And then also homeboy Rob, he's killing me.
Yeah, he was completely useless. I call him Woodsman Joe. You can call him Rob. That's probably his real name. But yeah, he shows up and he's kind of like the future, Tommy Jarvis proto version for the time being. But he's just like, this woodsman hunk who shows up randomly to help figure out what Jason's up to. And sure enough, he's dispatched as easily as he appeared, and he's in the dark. You don't even see anything. But your point, he's like, oh, he's killing me. That sounds like a chump way to go.
He actually took that from a real story when someone was being attacked, and the guy was like, he's attacking me! And so he used that in the movie.
Yeah, well, it didn't work out too well for him, did it?
I mean, he got hacked. He got hit a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't see any of it either, which was a very weird, wild choice. And I guess you could make the argument that maybe the MPA stepped in and there was some other footage that they had shot, but it just leads